Woo, 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 woo. Let's get it. Today we're going to North Carolina or the NC. Now, one of the interesting things about North Carolina is that in the Republic, they actually have multiple three-letter digit abbreviations. There's a difference between North Carolina State and the state of North Carolina. But North Carolina State and the Republic, its three digits can be NOC, North Carolina, or NCA, North CA, Alina, CA. And there's one more. I don't remember that one off. Oh, North NC, North Carolina Republic, NCR. So those are all acceptable for doing mail in a private to that state. That is fire to know. Okay. Remember, each state has a three-digit abbreviation. That's the Republic, and the two-digit is the federal corporate. Okay. North Carolina is also the place where we had the letter on right to travel. Now, I do not have it on this computer. No. But for those people who don't know and playing the home game, please stand by. North Carolina was where a particular person sent a letter to the governor, I believe it was, of North Carolina. Now, they said in there, they talked about right to travel and this and that. And it was, it was a letter between North Carolina and the Department of State or Interior, one of the two. And they were communicating back and forth about right to travel. Now, I have done my best to do a FOIA request on whether that particular document was real. I was like to vet things. So the Department of State, don't quote me, but this is what they never responded at all. So I contacted the state, all them, all the names and dates, times, all that checked out, letterhead, everything. But they said they have no record of the communication, which means either this was done outside or private, because they don't keep private information on official channels. Now, what I find interesting is that everything checks out, but the name signed, I think it was Norv Eisenberg in the Department of State, can't find Norv. And then the Department of State won't answer any of my questions when it comes to that, and they barely like to send me any FOIA requests or whatever else. So I've just given up on the whole FOIA. I had some good things for you guys if I could have got them, but they're not going to send them. They're not coming. It's been like 2 or 3 years now. So it's not happening. Anyway, we don't need them. We know what we know, and that's how we're going to move, right? Not a biggie. Can't stop, won't stop. Don't get stuck on little things, because if that's the case, you're not meant for this. They will slow you down with those little hiccups all across the board. They've been doing this to me since I was like 21. All right, it's nothing new. Um, they compartmentalize and it's layers upon layers, and then innuendos and cold shoulders and all the games and jazz. Okay, it is what it is. It's part of the game. You want to play the game? Know your piece. Know how to play it. All right. So don't forget, we're the ones who gave them permission to build the game and to have pieces in the first place as private citizens and nationals. Never forget, we the people. Okay? Patriotic talk right here. Anybody who's not down for it is a traitor to the United States of America and the Constitution for the United States of America. All right. So nothing came back with the FOIA. The state said nothing, all that, right? But everything else I checked out matched. Matter of fact, the diplomatic immunity document that's on Black Site 32 for free, it's theirs, it's open to the public. It talks about nationals and non-residents and all other stuff. The link, it's a super long link. I had to painstakingly read the blurry because it's a copy of a copy. And you know that when I put that whole link in and clicked it, it worked. Took me right to the Department of State's website and the file. Everything matched up. Kind of interesting. Everything matched up, and I could personally validate, but Norv Eisenberg. And then, of course, the communication itself. So, could it be originally a deep fake? Sure. But the original date of this was way back in the day where today I wouldn't trust it. I don't trust nothing today. Okay. But the date when this happened was so long ago that this was really well before any deep fake. And the only people who really had the ability to do a deep fake like this would be the government. And I don't think they're gonna, well, they could, I guess, put out a deep fake on right to travel between them and the governor of North Carolina, warning them that they should educate their cops. And then what? So we nationals get it, and then we're put on the game. So is the government helping us without directly helping us? I don't know. But what I do know is we're going to take a look at what legislative code and rights that we have through their right to travel, through their non-resident registration, because that's how they hide it. It's the type of obfuscation. They don't use our private words almost ever. So let's take a look at their words and understand that when a police officer says, "Oh, you're a private citizen," what he's really saying without realizing is that you're a state citizen or you are a national of the United States under 8 U.S.C. 1401. Because once again, they don't talk in our language. They're speaking a different language. Why do you think they even have Black Law's dictionary? Black's Law is not a American dictionary. It's used within the American geographical area and it is related. It is within the confines of America, but it is within its own jurisdictional bubble. Ergo, it's not American. So let's take a look at North Carolina, and this is the last one we're going to do. At least I'm going to do, unless you pay me for a consultation to do your state with you or for you. I don't really care. As long as I'm getting paid, I don't care. All right. Okay. Now, for the last one, pull all the same relevant info and things I've requested here about the state of North Carolina and compile. Thank you. Have a nice day. Okay. So, key statutes and exemptions in North Carolina, a non-resident / trip permit statute. Um, so here they're saying that if you're a motor vehicle and you're operating in their state, well, once again, in their state means can they find you on their computers and in their paperwork? And if they can, you've got 30 days, and the commissioner needs to give you need to buy from the commissioner a trip license. Completely private people, this doesn't apply to you, but it would seem like it applies to you. You're not doing anything commercial, this doesn't apply to you. Exempt vehicle statutes. So North Carolina General Statute, Section 20-51, exempt from registration. The following shall be exempt from, you know what? Why am I reading this? Here. Why am I working harder? Need to be working smarter.
NC General Stat Section 2051. exempt from registration. The following shall be exempt from the requirement of registration and certificate of title: any tractor, implement of husbandry, and trailer or semi-trailer while on any trip within a radius of 10 miles from the point of loading, provided that the vehicle does not exceed a speed of 35 miles per hour. This section shall not be construed as granting any exemption to operated on a for-hire basis.
Okay. So this section shall not be construed for the granting of exemptions for any vehicles operated for hire. Yeah, because if you're doing something for hire in an operation or being operated, which is commercial, then you're taxable. They want their money. Let's check the next one.
ORS 803.3.
Oh my God. Zoop.
C. Title and Registration Application Statute, Resident versus Non-Resident. N.C. General Stat Section 2052, Application for Registration and Certificate of Title. An owner of a vehicle subject to registration.
Notice how they now just say of a vehicle, no motor vehicle. So North Carolina has done this part right because there's a difference between a vehicle and a motor vehicle. A motor vehicle is a commercial term. You look up any paperwork on a police officer or sheriff or whoever, and they refer to those patrol cars as, well, one, patrol cars, two, motor vehicles subject to it. Now, they could just say vehicle because motor vehicle already implies commercial use. So when you're in Brazil, you don't have to say, yeah, I would like a sack of those Brazil nuts. You say, yeah, I want to get a sack of those nuts. Why? Because you're already in Brazil. So when you're in the court system, when you're in their computer system, when you're in their Black's Law, you're already in commerce. When you're doing U.C.C., the states are under commerce. Anything then under the state is commerce. Federal government is not in commerce. They operate under the Constitution. I mean, there's a little squiggle room in there, so we'll leave that alone. So far, the government's not on my naughty list, so we'll give them a pass. But the states, time to cook you up and eat you like steak. Let's go. Let's see what the section says. Keep it rolling.
Registration must apply to the division for a certificate of title. The application shall contain one of the following: the owner's home state driver license number or home state special identification card number if the owner provides a signed affidavit certifying that the owner intends to principally garage the vehicle in this state.
Okay. An owner of a vehicle subject to registration must apply. So once again, like in the last video, and we'll see what else they have. They do not specifically detail a non-resident who is not subject to registration, not directly. When they don't have that, your argument is going to be there is no state code on it. There is no legislation on it. You cannot administer public jurisdiction over something that's private and foreign. You don't have a code, at least so far. We're going to do some more digging, but none of these operate exactly and address what we're talking about. Same thing about foreign private individuals operating non-resident registration or foreign vehicle registration, private vehicle registration. They don't address it. So if they don't address it, they can't control it. Now, they can still control you because you have to obey the laws of the road because that falls under public safety and nobody is exempt from that. Once again, it's the bad wolf theory. If there's a wolf out there, we have to go and take care of the wolf. There's a dragon out there, we got to go take care of the dragon. There's a giant out there, we got to go and take care of the giant. That comes first. We cannot have threats of that nature in our waters doing actual damage, preventing people from living peacefully. if you're disturbing the peace. So because I told it to use interpretive notes and thinking, it's saying the phrase use and privileges of the highway in 2083B. Okay. Suggests that vehicles properly registered elsewhere may enjoy limited access in North Carolina without full North Carolina registration, i.e., a non-resident trip. So let's take a look at that one. So motor vehicles duly registered in another state. Okay, so once again, this is pretty clever. So this is under statutes and exemptions in North Carolina. So I would be using so far NC General Statute Section 20-83B. Why? Because here it says motor vehicles duly registered in another state. That's it. That's the code. That's it. That's all you need. That. That's all you need. But let's go on just to make sure. Or territory, okay, which are not allowed exemptions by the commissioner. Dot, dot, dot. So this is either more information there or the desiring to make occasional trips into or through the state of North Carolina. But then it says, or operate in this state for a period not exceeding 30 days may be permitted the same use and privileges of the highways of this state as provided for similar vehicles regularly licensed in this state. Okay. So, yeah, I would still use B and argue it out. But then it goes on to say, by procuring from the commissioner trip licenses, good for a period of 30 days upon the payment of a fee and compensation for said privilege. Okay, they can regulate privileges, they can't regulate rights and freedom, provided that only one such permit shall be issued for the use of the same vehicle within the same registration year. But they're throwing in the term or operate in this state. Well, we're not operating. So this, once again, is a tricky one because under exemptions, it says motor vehicles duly registered in another state. That is the exemption. That's it. I don't have to qualify for the rest of this. Why? Because it says or right here. We're done. One or the other. It doesn't say and or. It doesn't say and. It says or. So this is your code. That's it. The rest of this is what is the word? Superfluous, extra, useless. I might have missed this if it wasn't for chat kind of bringing this out down here. Let's see what 2051 says. Uses exempt. This supports the notion that non-commercial private use vehicles may fall outside of regulatory scope. So it's saying that under 2051, exempt vehicle statutes exempt from registration. Okay, it's got the dot, dot, dot. So there's more information here. Any tractor, implement of husbandry, comma, and trailer or semi. Dot, dot, dot. Exemptions to dot, dot, dot. So this would be leeway to me. I would use this and say, well, I'm using exempt from registration. And unless they can provide the full code so I can see it, I'd be saying, well, look, this construes that there are other things that qualify or that can be said in here. So, like it says this supports the notion. So you could argue that, okay, if that says for commercial and public things, but non-commercial private use may fall outside the scope. Once again, you could get them for this being vague. 2051 is vague, but it implies that they have jurisdiction to exempt these types. So then there must be things that are completely exempt outside of their jurisdiction. And it's saying 2052 gives a path for non-residents or owners garaging their vehicles via their home states and sign affidavits, which indicates North Carolina acknowledges non-resident and home state registration. So let's look at 2052. An owner of a vehicle subject. Okay, so I could use this one too because they're arguing here that an owner of a vehicle that is subject. Well, you don't define an owner of a vehicle that is not subject. See, some lawyers out there may be like, oh, well, well, hold your little fanny pack, because if they do not properly address the opposite, which is a vehicle and owner not subject, then they can't regulate it. They can regulate an owner of a vehicle that is subject, and they can grant this person still yet exemption if they choose. They probably won't. But this implies that they only have jurisdiction over these types. So then, if there's no code on it, or, you know, then they can't regulate it. So right now, I would go with 2083B, and then you could use these as supporting information pieces and say, well, here it says an owner of a vehicle subject to registration must apply. So then who are the owners of vehicles that are not subject to registration? See, just because they hide it in such a way where they don't talk about it like many other states, they just get it out of the way. North Carolina's like, we're not even going to really talk about that. You're not going to use that to beat us up. That's okay. Because the law states if you don't have it listed, you can't regulate it when done properly. That's okay. Because that's what we would then call an unenumerated right. You can only govern what's serialized and recorded or registered rather to you, like an owner who's got a vehicle that is subject to registration. So I'm challenging this by saying I'm an owner of a vehicle that is not subject to registration. Do you have jurisdiction over that? No. Unless I commit a crime or I give a cop or an officer or a sheriff, RAS, reasonable articulate suspicion of a crime, then yes, I'm waiving my privacy to then allow them to interfere for public safety standards. They can only regulate 14th Amendment U.S. citizens with plates and things registered to them. Criminals, all criminals across the board are in their jurisdiction, not private citizens or nationals who know how to self govern, not operate as a belligerent or combatant, and have properly removed their stuff from the system. Okay, so once again, see if you can read through again all their codes on vehicles. Search for foreign privilege um um Foreign privilege, private, yeah, private, international. What's another? Not required to be registered in this state. Type language, which obfuscates right to travel and freedoms. Once again, here they're using state, capital S. This should be the republic. But then they're also talking about suspension or revocation, which could be criminal. So
The acceptance by a non-resident of the rights and privileges conferred by the laws now or hereafter in force in this state permitting the operation of motor vehicles, as evidenced by the operation of a motor vehicle by such non-resident on the public highways of this state, or at any other place in this state, or the operation by such non-resident of a motor vehicle on the public highways of this state or at any other place in this state, other than as so permitted or regulated, shall be deemed equivalent to the appointment by such non-resident of the Commissioner of Motor Vehicles, or his successor in office, to be his true and lawful attorney and the attorney of his executor or administrator, upon whom may be served all summonses or other lawful process in any action or proceeding against him or his executor or administrator, growing out of any accident or collision in which said non-resident may be involved by reason of the operation by him, for him, or under his control or direction, express or implied, of a motor vehicle on such public highways of this state, or at any other place in this state, and said acceptance or operation shall be a signification of his agreement that any such process against him or his executor or administrator shall be of the same legal force and validity as if served on him personally, or on his executor or administrator.
okay, so that's not it exactly either. It's got some of the wording, but not the way we need it. So once again, North Carolina General Statute Section 20-83 B. Now let's take a look at what is their definition of non-resident. Okay, nor non-resident, any person whose legal residence is in some other state, territory, or jurisdiction other than North Carolina or any foreign country. Non-resident operating privilege, the privilege conferred upon a non-resident by the laws of this state pertaining to the operation by him of a motor vehicle in this state. Because once again, they're using the word privilege. So there's a non-resident, but they're saying if you're a non-resident, but you're operating, which is commercial, it's a privilege. But a non-resident has a right to be completely private and not operating. Okay, so I asked to look up the word exempt and it couldn't find a definition for exempt. Okay, we're just going to put a little blue gem on this right here for right now. Okay, if you guys have problems in North Carolina, hit me up. Okay, what about the words not subject to, not required to register, or something similar? So the GS 20-51, vehicles exempt from registration, the following shall be exempt from requirements of registration and certificates of title, dot, dot, dot. Once again, list, it does not say anywhere in here only. So that could be argued that there are other ones, but they're not listed here. A lot of people think because it's not the states or the specific things are all not listed here, that's it. If the only way that's possible is if they say only these vehicles. If they say only these vehicles, then they mean only those vehicles. So there are other ones that are exempt, but they're not going to put them down. They have no legal obligation to put it down. That then means that you can use this to argue your point. And that's what they want. They want you afraid to argue your point. So it says here, this is the clearest not required to register phrase in chapter 20. Interpretive note, by enumerating classes of exempt vehicles, meaning numbering those that are exempt, the legislature confines that the DMV jurisdiction to registered. The DMV jurisdiction is confined to registered and commercial categories because they're not talking about the ones that are exempt. Anything outside of those classes, if not expressly covered, creates a lawful inference of non-applicability. So once again, it's saying here that the DMV must rely on expressed authority. Otherwise, a vehicle stands not subject to its regulatory power. They do not have full power over all things in the area. So they decided to hide it as much as possible to the point where they don't even talk about it, which they can do because they don't want you to easily be able to say, well, this is the code right here. But that in itself, you argue because that's obfuscation. The states are deliberately hiding your remedy. That is a federal violation. I would sue the shiz nit out of them if any of these were my states, just on that one thing. That's it. So almost where it began is where it ends. So once again, these last two were actually pretty good. I give it to you. I do read the comments and the on the videos, not every single one of them because I do have a life. And I would have no life, and my girl would me if I only sat here and just emailed everybody back and did all those things. So I do try to glaze over them as much as possible, but some of them I do read in full. But that's it, guys. That is all we have for the day. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Don't forget to hit that bell, like, and subscribe on the way out. This is the Bad Wolf. The truth will not be denied. And if you stand in our way, we'll make you into a hide. The foreign national, born natural, Bad Wolf, Man in Black, the number one stunner. Yeah, we'll use that one. Bringing it to you guys Wiley style since day one. And it's good to see you guys starting to pick this up and making it happen for yourself. I think the future of all this stuff is going to be in good hands because it'll be in yours. I'll leave the light on for you. Talk to you guys later.